Good morning, CNG 124. Almost said 132. Got a lot of submissions I need to work on. Those are probably mostly activities that you guys have done. I think last week we had 6 activities. So that's for 20 students, that's about 120 submissions. I think so, if I got that right. Let's see. We are starting week number 9. Going back to week number 8, or I'm sorry, our discussions for last week, week 8 discussions. A lot of you discussed that it's getting easier. Packet tracer, you're getting used to packet tracer. The one thing that threw most of you off was the A and B subnetting. But I think you may have overthought the situation. I haven't looked at the labs yet, but I'll dig into them later today. Remember that a Class C, once we've mastered a Class C, we apply the same information to B, C, B, and then A. One part belongs to the network, and then the other part belongs to the host. When we go into supernetting, it's simply counting multiples of powers of 2. So since we're in a class, if you're always to start out at Class C, you can say, okay, I'm in a Class C, I have 256 addresses, that is 24. If I go over 1, I'm essentially doubling that 256 and making it 512. If I double 512, I'm at 1024. If I double 1024, I'm at 2048. And you just keep on going that route. Eventually, you'll memorize all the numbers, but I don't expect that, maybe not in this course. Probably like the 1024 and then the rest of the Class C subnets, but it doesn't get entirely, you'll get it with practice. Packet tracer, let's see, I'm glad a lot of you are getting that easier. I'm glad it's coming around. I did look at 7.2 versus my 7.1. I'll have to get that updated. It looks like 7.2, they did a blue background instead of my 7.1 yellow background. So I updated that on my computer in the lab. I wish I could have packet tracer on here, but every time you go to save it, it writes to the hard drive, and I need to have admin privileges for that. And I do not. Let's see. For the content for this week, I believe one of the assignments is looking at the 1941 router. Yeah. So we take a look at the 1941 router. If you can use the book, or I'm sorry, the Netacad online portion for this to help you identify parts of the Cisco router as your face-to-face class. You might have just a slight advantage here because I do have 1941s in the classroom, but it's the same exact router, what they show on Netacad and what they have in the face-to-face class, and then even again in Packet Tracer. If you look at the router, it's the exact same in all 3 places, so it should not throw anybody off. There are detailed white pages out there if you need those. Feel free to grab them. Subnetting 5, I believe we start to look at, once again, more, or no, subnetting 5 is, okay. So subnetting 5, a different take on our subnetting. Make sure you, it's the exact same information that you've been writing down. If you get stuck, make sure to draw out your 8 lines. That's the best advice I can give you. Make sure you count. Make sure you figure out, in some cases, when we see /27, /26, /15, you know, what's the bit value for there? What's the prefixes? Start to figure those out and write those out. And you won't get stuck on this one. I don't know why these came over. I'll have to take a look at that. It's supposed to be A, B, and C. So I don't know what A, B, C, D. I don't know what happened there. So this might change. If you do print one out before I get to it, after grading, it will look slightly different, but this should be A, B, C, D, and that's the only difference there. 15. I made an error on the due date too. That should be the 21st and not the 28th. Did I make it the same error here? So just in case I made the same error everywhere, the due date should be the 21st. In Lab 15, make sure you download the packet tracer file, the Word document, and then once again, I need to get that student's permission before I show his homework, but make sure that you're walking through this. Make sure that you're walking through this lab, print it out at home, or even if you have it in downloaded in a Word document, make sure you find a way to either strike through the words after you complete them, just in case you have to go back and redo this or maybe highlight something. There's some students, let's see, so once we start to dive into Packet Tracer, there's some students that start to use the tabs within Packet Tracer that are not really they're not really part of the OS, I guess. They're just tabs to where you can enter information that's more or less for my use and not the student's use. But in a real life situation, there won't be those tabs. So make sure not to start doing those shortcuts this early in the program. I would rehearse Lab 15. If you go through it once, I would maybe go through it again just to make sure that you start ingraining this process into your methodology. From here on out, we start to, I think I only give you the made up labs a few times, and then it's up to you to actually start to develop the Packet Tracer file on your own. So make sure that you're reading through the lab and saying, okay, PC 0 is connected using a straight cable to switch 0 FA0. Another good point here is to say this diagram is for your use. You see how I put the network address over here representing this network address over here representing this network address on the top representing that network. This is all information that should be, you the student should draw out on every lab we do in Packet Tracer before you start migrating it over to Packet Tracer. I think I messed up over there. Make sure you're drawing out all your information on this sheet, your template, before migrating to Packet Tracer, just in case there's a mistake. You can say, okay, you can look at it, you say, you know what, all my information is correct on the sheet. Let me verify that against Packet Tracer. And if there is an error, I can find my error. That's usually the biggest mix-up is people, a student does not write any information here. They just run through the exam, or not the exam, the lab, and they get to the end and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. Then when I go over and start to look at their Packet Tracer, you can do the same within Packet Tracer. I guess I have to change all my pictures now too. You can draw lines and circles and start to enter text, all by the right hand choices. I have to hover over those and find out what they are exactly. But you can start to mark up this entire network with the information that is shown on your lab. And like I said, this will only be presented a few times, and it's up to you to start making these on your own. Once again, it's due the 21st, not the 28th. And I do state it a few times, add address on topology. It makes it a lot easier trying to figure out your issues when you have all the information here loaded onto your Packet Tracer. It's very important to follow the steps by steps, and I don't know what happened there, but it looks like it might have done it on all my A, B's, and C's. But make sure to follow the lab step by step. Don't skip over a part. If it just tells you some of the space is informational, it's just telling you what you're going to do. It's not in this lab, I believe, as we walk through this lab. Pay attention to the wording. I try to make this as clear as I can. But this is us getting more used to Packet Tracer, and I'm going to have to try to figure out why my A, B's, and C's came out wrong. If you have any issues, make sure to reach out to myself. I believe I'll have to get another student assessor in here to help with this. I know this video is kind of long, but this first lab is also kind of long. Make sure you take your time. Don't rush through this. Verify your work. If you have any questions, make sure you give them to me or post in the discussions. Or post in the discussions at the top here that you're having an issue, and start to work on these issues with the class. I'll do my best to be around more this week just to try to catch those. But if I'm not able to do so, please make sure you post your issues here so the TA can help look at them.